whatever your number is that you need to hit a week as far as like outreach, just keep hitting that. Eventually that hard work will pay off no matter what market you're in.
Hi, and welcome to The Selling Edge, where we explore the tools, strategies, and stories that help sellers win faster and smarter. I'm Trish Craig, Director of Customer Success at Futuri, and today I'm joined by Demytrk, Business Development Representative at Spanish Broadcasting System in New York City. Mitchell has earned a reputation as one of SBS New York's top new business sellers, and in this conversation, he shares the daily habits and mindset that have helped him consistently build a strong pipeline. We talk about how he structures his day before the phones start ringing, how he identifies new opportunities, why preparation makes all the difference before the first call, and how he personalizes outreach to stand out in a crowded marketplace. Mitchell also shares his approach to handling objections, knowing when to move on from a prospect, and staying motivated through the inevitable ups and downs of new business development. Whether you're just getting started in sales or looking to sharpen your prospecting process, this episode is packed with practical strategies you can put to work immediately. Mitchell, thanks for joining me today. It's really great having you here.
Thank you, Trish. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Why don't you share a little bit of background on yourself for those just virtually meeting you on this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a graduate from the University of Scranton, class of 2020. Tough year that year. I think we all remember why, but
yeah, COVID year.
So I originally went to school not to do anything with sales, really. I was a journalism major with a concentration in broadcast media. So I was really looking to do any form of video or audio content. But again, that year was tough for the job market upon graduation. I started working just to work at my dad and uncle's warehouse in the South Bronx, just to make money during COVID. And eventually, through a connection, I was able to fortunately get hired by Spanish Broadcasting System, not to do content, obviously, because it's a Spanish language station and I am not a Spanish speaker, but I was brought in to sell ad space. So it definitely different than what I envisioned myself doing for my career just a couple of years earlier, but it's worked out well. I've been here for almost 5 years now. It'll be 5 years in September. So not content, and I had no vision of myself being in sales, particularly media sales, a few years, even a few months before I got this job with SBS. But here we are, and it's worked out nicely. It's worked out really nicely.
Well, your VP, David, wants to literally clone you and said that you are the #1 new business developer at SBS New York, which is huge kudos to you. So while I'm sure that you don't want to necessarily give up all of your secret sauce on this podcast today for every salesperson listening, surely other sellers who do tune in to this particular session, they're going to want to lean in a little bit and look for some ideas on things that, maybe they haven't thought of yet. So I guess let's talk strategy. Let's pretend it's 8:30 in the morning on Tuesday. What does that look like for you? What is Mitchell doing at 8:30 on Tuesday?
Well, if NJ Transit isn't delayed, no, only kidding.
That's always a strong possibility.
No, I do want to start. David's very nice in saying, I'm the #1 new business seller, but we have a great team at SBS, and sales is very individualized, yes, but it also is such a team effort, and a lot of people are contributing to new business, and high tide raises all boats kind of thing. So we all do a great job there bringing in new business. And when someone opens the door in like a category and things of that nature, it's easier for other people to dive into that category, because it shows you it can be done. You can point to success stories and so on and so forth. So I do thank David for calling me that, but it is a team effort. It is a team effort. But what does my strategy look like? So yeah, I try to get in, depending on the commute, before 9 o'clock, just because at 9 o'clock, everyone starts their day. And so I don't think this is super nuanced, but everyone starts their day and they have their schedules planned out. And what they're not expecting is a call from you. So if I can get in at 8:15, 8:30 and kind of structure my day to then proceed by reaching out to decision makers or, trying to break that wall down, I try to set up and organize myself before 9 o'clock because I feel like if you start at 9 o'clock, people really get into a rhythm of their day. And by the time you're done setting up, you can lose a lot of time and a lot of momentum. And you might not be able to get in touch with who you're trying to get in touch with that day because, they've got booked through other things, maybe not even other sellers, just, internal meetings came up and now you can't get a hold of them. So just trying to be organized, before the day even starts and, having a plan, having a focus before that day starts is always a plus and it helps you. Not every day is perfect, obviously, but just trying to build that routine and rapport with yourself day by day, it could go a long way.
So would you say, kind of catching them off guard? Are you actually calling some of these prospects before 9 so that you're beating them to their busy day?
Before 9, it's more so like getting who you're going to reach out to and what you plan to accomplish. Like, you have your call block, set. I'm between 9 and 10:30, I'm going to hit these people. And then from 10:30 to noon, I'm going to take care of internal stuff. And just mapping that out really helps in your process. And then, from 1 to 3 is all email blasts and stuff like that. So just mapping that out, unless I had planned with the decision maker that, we were going to talk before 9, I don't really see myself reaching out cold before 9 because, you don't necessarily want to catch them off guard, before they have their coffee or whatever. So
yeah, definitely have your coffee first.
Yeah.
You mentioned email blast. So prospecting, right? From a strategy standpoint, from laying your day out, from mapping it out, you gave me some hours and some times and things that, kind of how you lay things out. How much time for you is spent prospecting and how are you prospecting?
Yeah, it's really important that you dedicate, enough time to where you're prospecting, fleshing leads out that you find for yourself. There are different ways to prospect potential leads and potential clients. I'd say we have a bunch of different platforms that we use to kind of get a scope of who's doing what, who's spending a lot, and where are they spending, what kind of ads are they running. And that kind of gives you an idea of who you can reach out to there. If they're already on, you could say, hey, we see that you're on, or just categorically speaking, what verticals are spending money right now in the advertising space. So that can give you a kind of a jolt in that sense. And then going from there, Miller Kaplan has a great feature that's like, you can see the spend, but you can also do zero share to see who's not spending with you. Go into that feature and you see who's spending in the market, just not with SBS. And, you can reach out to them that way. Another way might be barbaric, but even just like a Google search of like, let's say your vertical, you're looking for new car dealerships to go after. You just do new car dealerships in Queens or new car dealerships on Long Island. Sometimes a Google search like that can put dealerships that you weren't necessarily thinking about on your radar. Like, I've never heard of them, but this Google search helped me find them. So just varying the way you prospect can bring you businesses that you weren't even thinking of. Varying your approach, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, sometimes other people on your team, and yes, I agree, your team is awesome and they're super fun to work with. You mentioned, sometimes somebody will go after a category and it's one that maybe you didn't think of before. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I could pursue that category as well. How are you picking verticals? And you said automotive, like you threw that one out. So where are you getting those ideas to on what verticals you want to go after?
A vertical that we have a lot of success with at SBS is the personal injury lawyers. That's not really a seasonal thing or, depends on what's going on kind of thing. That's just been a staple year round for years. A lot of our audience works construction and in warehouses, and a large percentage of them do that. So you want to make sure that they're aware of options if, God forbid, they get hurt on the job, or if they get into a motor vehicle accident, or, so on and so forth. So, things like that. It's a very competitive vertical within our airwaves, but it's still a vertical worth pursuing just because lawyers, they want to make themselves aware to an important market, especially in New York City. Other verticals, it could depend on what time of year it is. And like, for example, right now, after a slow winter, I'll go back to automotive. It's starting to heat up again. So, car dealerships, they want to come on, everything's defrosting now. So they're looking to start pumping cars out at a high rate on a monthly basis. So they're looking to do what they can to make sure that people are aware of the deals that they have going on, the specials that they have going on, and make sure they're selling as many new cars as possible, because not only are you competing with other brands, but you're competing with your own local brands. Like 2 Toyota dealerships are competing with each other so that they can get more inventory, more co-op dollars, so on and so forth. So they're looking to get the word out as much as they can as well. So it's dependent on how well the industry is doing, what time of year it is. To go even further, retail, does well in Q4 because we're approaching the holidays, people buying stuff, getting their Christmas bonuses or the holiday bonuses. So they're looking to get presents for the family. And so whatever kind of retail they're looking to get into, that's always a big thing in Q4 too. So it's just being on your toes at all time and
thinking ahead and planning ahead.
Exactly.
You talked a little bit about your approach and things you do and your email blasts and things like that. So is every sales rep, right, in the city. And when I say every sales rep, it's every media out there, right? So what are you doing? How do you make sure that your effort is actually efficient and not just busy, right? Because there's, we got to make so many calls and develop new business. So how are you really crafting things, right, that it's efficient?
Yeah. So you want to make sure you're, however you can, emailing the person responsible for making the decisions, the info at, when the gatekeeper gives you an info at, you could use that, but it's kind of tough. So the better the email you have, the more likely it is you'll find success.
What defines that for you? Like, what's the better email? What are you putting in your emails to break through?
Well, we use Futuri Topline, which is a great resource for sellers to use, especially in media. You want to make it relatable to the industry that you're in. Sometimes cookie cutter emails work, if you blast them out to everyone, but making it personable to the decision maker and what their line of work is in is always important. You want to give them relevant business reasons as to why you're reaching out and to why they should respond. So doing that, we get great data from Topline, and you're able to make it relatable to the buyer and say, hey, wow, this actually is pretty good information. And, a large percentage of our audience or of the market we're looking to get into is part of your audience. So just giving them a reason to respond is important.
Before you ever actually make that first email or that first phone call to a prospect, whichever your approach is, right? Walk me through what some of your preparation looks like as far as getting to know or find information out about that prospect, because there is a difference, right, between Googling somebody, but then actually being prepared to speak to them. And you've kind of started to talk about that. So give me a little bit about what you're doing there to really prepare for that prospect.
Yeah, sometimes a LinkedIn search really helps, just seeing what their background, how long they've been at their company, how long they've been doing what they've been doing. Not because you're going to mention it in your email, just to get an understanding of who you're emailing. Another thing that Topline does offer, though, in all seriousness, is the personality prep. And that takes like less than a day. Punching in their LinkedIn and their just basic, first and last name kind of stuff. And their LinkedIn link gives you kind of an idea of, how they are, how to craft your email. Some people like to just get straight to the point. Some people want to, be asked how their day is going. It's all dependent on the person. So having that in our back pocket always helps as well.
We love hearing that helps you prepare, believe me.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you want to go further than that, maybe not looking up general data about their vertical, but putting into your system of the company, their demo, what they're looking for, and getting specialized, personalized data towards that company specifically and the line of work that they're in specifically to them and your station. It's always a plus, and it can help you a lot in as far as trying to garner a response from them.
What's the objection you hear the most from new prospects? And then what does your answer to that objection sound like?
That's a great question because there's a few.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Talk about all of them. What's your top 3? Go ahead.
Some like you can't control because most businesses I reach out to are small or medium-sized businesses. One example is the company's being sold. So right now, everything's on hold. You can't really do anything about that.
Right.
Finding out that kind of information for something that's out of your control, like the company's being sold, that's always a plus. A lot of times you can get like, now's not a good time. And they say that just to get you off the phone. And if they keep talking to you, like if you say, for me, I would reply, why isn't it a good time? And when is normally a good time? If they don't hang up with you, they are interested, but they, for whatever reason, their first thing is to object and try and get you off the phone. So just digging there, just the more information you can get, no matter what the objection is, the better. If they hang up on you after you ask that, then like it is what it is. You just move on to the next. You don't really take it personal. It's just water off a duck's back at that point. But you want to just try and get more and more information. Why isn't it a good time? When is it a good time? When do you see the most business? When's the slowest? Is it being slow? Is that what makes it a bad time? Because we can try and help you with that, things like that.
Yeah, no, it's great. When they say that to you, right? When they say now's not a good time, or they give you a different time. And to your point, if it's like, hey, I'm really busy, right? Like this is our busy time. Like actually, I'd rather you call me back when I'm slow, right? We can talk about how to increase that time. Are you doing calendar reminders for yourself? And like, how are you organizing that?
Yeah, that's a big thing too. Like if someone tells you now's really not a good time on April 1st, say, beginning of Q2, like it's just not a good time for us for whatever reason. You ask them, you find out when is a good time. It's like, reach out to me July 1st or June 15th, say, and we can get some momentum going towards Q3. We could start discussions and pick up planning and stuff like that. You make sure you put in your calendar, whether it's your Google Calendar, Outlook, whatever you use, like June 15th, 9 a.m., make sure you're reaching out to this person, whether it's phone call or email. And if you get them on the line or email them, make sure you remind them who you are and why you're calling. And, we want to remind them of why you're emailing them on June 15th. We want to get the ball rolling for Q3, July 1st, and reach, whatever market or product you're offering them.
How has response been? Like when you've done that before, have clients kind of appreciated that? Do they engage with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not always like 100% success rate as far as like, yeah, you're right. I said that. Let's get into it. That does happen, but sometimes the period of this isn't a good time has extended. You hope that they're being transparent with you and as to why they need more time. But you also have to really do some evaluating yourself as a seller. You got to make sure they're not messing with you or, wasting your time.
That's the fine line and the big balance, right? Because your time is money.
Exactly. So, if they're transparent with you as to what's going on, as to why they still need more time, then you give them that grace. But if you reach out to them and they're just like, sorry, man, now's not a good time either, you could send them lower down the list of importance and, people that you need to reach out to. Because you don't want to get your time wasted.
Yeah, we get it. Let's talk about another level of objections while we're on the topic of objections and people kind of giving you a goose chase, right? Let's say you had a great meeting. You met with a client. They were completely interested in it. You came back, you put everything together, and now here you are, and they've gone dark. Right? They're just completely ghosting you. They're not responding to you. What's your move?
Again, some things are out of your control, like the decision maker that you met with and put something together for could have left the company, or there's like internal things going on. You'd appreciate a response, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But if that's not the case and they are just going dark on you, give them a deadline and follow up and say, is there anything I can review with you that you're not understanding or you have questions about? And then in media, in particularly radio, inventory is ever changing depending on the month or the season or whatever. Inventory is always changing. So if you give them a hard deadline of August 1st or August 31st is the final day, is the deadline of this offer. Like, I can't keep it on the table for you forever. And it kind of makes them move a little bit, because if they're serious about doing it, they have to get their things in order. And if they don't reach out to you again, or if you don't hear from them by August 31st, it's tough because, you're so close and you have a proposal out and it's the most exciting thing. You think about them saying yes, you want to be positive. But it's tough when September 1st rolls around and you don't hear from them. You know that it's safe to move on. I would give them a deadline. And I don't mean like, you met with them August 24th and you're like, I need an answer by the 31st. If some time has passed since the meeting, since the proposal was sent, and, you reach out to them and you don't hear from them. And then this email is like 3 weeks down the line, like, hey, I need an answer by X date or something like that. Giving them a deadline, I think, is a good way of fleshing out whether they're serious or not.
I think, everything in media sales comes in waves, right? You have your pipeline and you've got all your calls and all your meetings and your appointments. And then all of a sudden one day that pipeline feels a little bit dry, right? And you're like, oh man, I kind of have to reset and start over. So, and every seller faces that. And I think particularly for the newer sellers, when they experience that for the first time, it's kind of deflating, right? So let's say there's a newer seller listening to this right now, and they're in that spot where that pipeline is dry and their motivation is low. What would you tell them?
Just breathe. Take a few deep breaths. It may not all click at once, but keep researching and read articles. Reading articles throughout different verticals can always be helpful. Like, since we've done automotive a few times, I'll speak on it again. Like, I think automotive news is a great medium to read about, because they can give you news about a certain manufacturer that would, make you feel inclined to reach out to that manufacturer. Mazda has something going on, or, their inventories doing really well and they have a new chip feature. I'm just, making it up, but that can make you feel inclined to, all right, where are all the Mazda dealers near me? And, reach out to them. And that could just be sort of a refresher to your pipeline, or reading the Wall Street Journal, seeing what's going on there. It's like, wow, there's a ton of investment help out there now through app platforms. Like, maybe I reach out to those kind of, the Acorns of the world and stuff like that. So it's a lot. It could feel like a lot. I would just take a step back, breathe, clear your mind. Don't let yourself get too low. Don't let yourself get too high. Try and stay at, kind of that middle ground so that the crashes aren't, as bad. And just try and read stuff going on through different mediums, papers or online stuff. So, because you never know what you can find there. I'd say that if you're feeling overwhelmed about your pipeline being dry.
You've been there now for 5 years and obviously successful. So this is not luck for you. You have figured it out. You said this is not the path you initially thought you were going to land in, right? You're thinking content. Now you're here in sales and you're loving it and you're successful and doing great. What is the piece of the process that you would say took you personally the longest to figure out about media sales?
It's not personal. Like, don't take things personally from these companies that you reach out to, these decision makers you reach out to. You're not a bad person, whether they hang up on you or they give you a meeting. That doesn't dictate whether you're a good or a bad person. It doesn't dictate whether you're a good or a bad seller either, to be honest. You could do all the right things. You could say all the right things. And that person just woke up on the wrong side of the bed that day and they screamed at you and hung up. But as long as just keep your process the same, it eventually works out. Sometimes there is a little bit of luck involved, and that's okay. But luck finds you if you continue to put the work in and just remain positive and have a positive outlook on what you're doing, sometimes luck finds you, and that's a good thing. Don't be ashamed of, getting lucky sometimes. Like, you could reach out to someone on, and then they don't say anything to you, and then you reach back out a year later and someone different answers the phone and they get you through to who you need to get through to. Like, it could just be that. It could just be like who answers the phone that day. So I wouldn't take it personal, and just keep at your process and make sure you're giving it your best, because that luck will find you.
What would you tell a seller in another market right now? Or New York, same market, someone who's, let's say, doing okay, but knows that they're not where they need to be in new business development. What's the most honest advice you could give them?
Very similar to the advice I just gave. Like, you could be pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually you're going to break through and see the results that you've been working for. It's not always going to happen frequently, or, you can go through dry spells with this. I've gone through plenty of dry spells. It happens. And then next thing you know, it's like, man, am I going to get to my call block today? Like, I have so many orders I'm inputting, and I have a meeting with this person. I've got to build a proposal for that person and then input, orders. So just keep pushing. Eventually you will find a breakthrough. The worst thing you could do is give up.
So consistency is key.
Yeah, 100%. Whatever your number is that you need to hit a week as far as like outreach, like, just keep hitting that. And eventually that hard work will pay off, no matter what market you're in, whether it's New York, Chicago, or Little Rock, Arkansas, like, just keep at it.
If someone walks away from this conversation that we're having today and only changes one thing about how they approach new business tomorrow morning, what would you want that one thing to be?
Sometimes it works for someone else and they stay with you and they're on with you for, years and years and years. And sometimes you build a campaign for someone and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out for them. You need to be able to, and they say, yeah, we're going to cut spending with you. We just didn't see the results that we wanted to see. You could have done everything under the sun that you could have, and it just didn't work out. And they see your hard work and recognition, but still, they have an obligation on their end, which is completely understandable. They have to make decisions based on what makes sense for them, financially speaking. So having new business to replace that is always important. And say it works out for, I mentioned, one client is having a great time and another isn't so much. You have two clients that are having a great time and they want to, keep going with you. You add new business to that. It only helps your billing, your revenue for the company, and revenue for yourself. I'm sure every company, whether it's media sales or whatever kind of sales you're in, I'd be willing to bet that they pay you more on your commission for new business. So walk away from this knowing that new business can only help you. It can only help you accomplish what you want to accomplish, what you need to accomplish. And no matter where you are in your career, whether you're a year in, 5 years in, 15 years in, new business can only help you, no matter if you bill $1 million or whatever you're billing. It only helps.
I know a lot of what we talked about today was really centered around that part of it, the new business development and the prospecting and all of the tools. But you just said something when you started that about retention, right? And getting clients to be repeat clients. And I think that's such a huge part of it. And you're just thinking of coaching new sellers or advice to give a seller who is doing okay but wants to do better. And hearing you say that, I'm going to guess this is always on your mind. So I would love to hear your take on this. But as soon as you sign a client on, and we know how many steps were involved to get to that point, how many meetings, how many calls, right? So you've now gotten them to officially sign on. How immediately or how quickly are you thinking about the renewal and the relationship that you're building with them? And then what are you doing in those first 90 days to make sure you're going to get there?
It definitely depends on what kind of sale you just made. Like if it's a seasonal or what we call flights, if it's a flight for 5 weeks because you're promoting an event or a sale or, whatever the case is, and it's a client that comes on in flights, you have to have that same tenacity with any client, but, you have to have that same tenacity for those 5 weeks that they're on, making sure everything goes smoothly and making sure they're getting the results they're looking for so that the next time they have a special for whatever vertical they're in and they need to run another 5-week flight, that you're on the short list of the calls that they make to promote this flight. And something like that is information you should have before the sale is even made so that you can proactively reach out to them. If they do stuff in April and November, say, you're reaching out to them in February and September to make sure that they're on and, seeing what worked from the previous flight and what didn't work so you can correct that and have a better understanding of how to make them be as successful as possible on your platform. For an annual, making sure you're in their back pocket as much as possible. If they need something, you're there, proactively reaching out to them to make sure that they're all good and making sure that it's working. Any metrics that you can provide, you take them out for a lunch or a dinner or something with management, introducing them to management, taking them to tour, specifically here, tour the studio, meet, the personalities and stuff like that, taking them to, hooking them up with tickets for tentpole events or whatever, Mets or Yankees game you have available through the company, just taking care of them in that way, showing that you appreciate their business and you're doing what you can to not only make sure the campaign goes smoothly, but you appreciate them as individuals as well, and you want to treat them in such a way.
Be part of the process.
Yeah, it's all part of the process. Yeah.
Mitchell, thank you again for joining us and sharing your approach to building new business.
Thank you, Trish. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. I had a blast talking with you.
One of the biggest takeaways from this conversation is that successful prospecting isn't about finding a shortcut or waiting for the perfect opportunity. It's about showing up every day with a plan, preparing for every conversation, staying consistent, and trusting the process. I also loved your reminder not to take rejection personally. Every seller experiences dry spells, missed opportunities, and prospects that don't work out. The sellers who ultimately succeed are the ones who keep learning, keep prospecting, and keep moving forward. Thanks for listening to The Selling Edge. If you found this conversation valuable, be sure to follow the podcast and share it with someone on your sales team who's looking to build a stronger pipeline and create more consistent new business results. Until next time, keep selling smarter, not harder.